Hey, Scott Thompson here. I just want to thank you for coming to this real quick webinar on real estate trust deeds and notes, paper secured by real estate. To understand notes and what I'm going to be talking about, it's important for you to know what your interest is going to be, your present value will be on the property, your amortization schedule, and also your monthly payments. These topics right here will can actually be modified or changed around. If a person wants a 40-year loan versus a 30-year, you can make adjustments here. Ultimately, the individual that's wanting the paper is wanting the monthly payments to be higher than the underlying note, and we're going to be talking about that too. It's all-inclusive trust deeds or wraparound mortgages. But first off, just for those who are new to this is just very elementary. But those who are new to this, I'd like to just explain a little bit about the real estate trust deeds and notes. With real estate, you always have the property and the deed. You'll notice that there's a chain that links between the house and the deed to the note. But with this particular property, you'll notice that there's a padlock on this chain here. So you own the house by virtue of the deed. I'm sure you've heard stories or situations where people will get their house paid off, and then they have this great big party where they're going to burn their deed. Well, even if they burn the deed, the home still is attached to it. So, and it's recorded at the courthouse. So you have the property and the deed, which can never ever be separated. That makes up the property, and the deed is appurtenant, or it's attached to the property. And then also you have a note with terms and conditions of the loan. And once this note is paid off, then this chain disappears and there's no longer a note. So an individual that has their property paid off actually has the home and the deed with no clouds on the title or no loans or encumbrances on the title. So this is not part of that transaction anymore once it's paid off. Okay, so now that you know what a trust deed is and the property and the note, back in the 1980s, there was a lot of paper moving around, and it's because the interest rates were about 18% interest. And it was really difficult for people to buy homes, so a lot of people were doing second mortgages or owner financing. And so there was a lot of notes or paper out there that was owner financing. Today you'll see some of it, not as much as you did in the 80s. You'll see a little bit of it. But there's ways to create paper. And there's a target market of individuals, and I'll go over that in just a few minutes with you. But there's a target market of individuals who actually have their properties paid for, and they do not want the high tax burden on the full amount received in a transaction. So they end up selling these properties, owner financing, and maybe with a balloon later on, or whatever the terms agreed to. But back in the 80s, I don't know if some of you may have seen ads in the newspapers in the bigger cities where the ad would say, "I buy real estate, trust deeds, and notes." And then you would see a phone number in that ad. So, I buy real estate, trust deeds, and notes. Paper secured by real estate. And the real estate is the property and the trust deed. So a good way to find paper or buy paper is to put your own ads out, maybe on the internet, on websites that you might have, or or in publications, newspapers, and so forth, you'll have an ad out that says, "I buy real estate, trust deeds, and notes, paper secured by real estate." Then you'd have your phone number or a 1-800 number in the newspaper to where people would call it and give you their information, and then you would call them back. So that's just a brief on that. So anyway, you go to a property that you found on the internet that somebody's selling. You know that the property is paid for, and you go to the property and you start kicking the bricks, meaning like kicking the tires on a car, going and checking the car out, looking underneath the hood and so forth. So you go and you look at the property and you kick the bricks to find out if this property is going to be a good match for you. So the individual that you approach, the home needs a lot of work, and he says, "You know, I'll sell you this house for $100,000, but I don't want all the money up front. I just want $10,000, and then I'll carry it the rest of the way." So what you do is you negotiate terms of the note, and you figure out what your interest rate will be, what your present value will be. So for example, if he sold it to you for $100,000 with $10,000 down, your present value would be $90,000. Let's say that it was 30 years with a balloon payment in so many years. In this case, we'll just make it simple and just say 30 years. Now there's a lot of different ways that you can approach buying notes and buying property and creating the note. And you want to create terms and conditions in that note that will be beneficial to both of you. Not just one-sided, but both of you. So anyway, you find this property and you put $10,000 down. So now you have a $90,000 note. That's the present value of the property. And then your interest rate, let's just say that it's 10%. So your interest rate is 10%. And the amortization, you decided that you worked it out together, and there's no balloon or anything, but you worked it out together and you've agreed to 30 years. And then your monthly payments, which would be $790 per month. So when you negotiate with these with property, you want to get the best interest that you can. You know, a lot of people will say, "Well, I want 10%," and you can negotiate with them and say, "Well, the Federal Reserve discount rate is such and such a number, and that's what they loan the banks money on. So I would like to get my rate down a little bit lower." So you try to get the rate as low as you can, in comparable to the Federal Reserve discount rate on what they loan the banks, and then what the banks loan the public. So you want to get maybe a rate that the bank will loan the public. But very seldom it will happen that way, because the seller doesn't want those type of terms, but they can be negotiated. So always remember that your interest, your present value and amortization, and your monthly payments can be modified and to create the best type of terms and conditions for both parties. So anyway, you have this property now. It's owner financing, and you could see the potential of this property, and you knew that $100,000 was a good deal, and now you want to fix the property up to turn around and sell it or flip it. And I don't know why people want to flip properties. You know, they get a higher amount of cash up front, but why flip them when you can create these annuities, these monthly payments coming in each month? You can go around and you can do 15, 20 of these deals, and instead of flipping the property, you just hold on to the property and you turn around and sell it on a wraparound mortgage or an all-inclusive trust deed. And I'll explain that in just a second. Okay, so now you have this home, and there's a trust deed and note created with the owner financing. Now what you do is you fix this property up, and you turn that property into, let's say for an example, and this is just an example, let's say you turn that property into a $150,000 home now, because you've put new tile in it, you've replaced the shingles, you've done a whole bunch of things that would increase the value of this property. And another important thing to look out for when you buy these trust deeds and notes and the property, you want to be able to make sure that the home is in a good turnaround cycle or a neighborhood change, a slow turnaround cycle in the neighborhood change. And I have other videos that I go over the neighborhood cycle or neighborhood change. I think that's important to, when you go out and kick the bricks on a house to see what the house is like, you also want to check the neighborhood out as well. So anyway, now you fix this home up, and you decide that, hey, I'm going to sell this home for $150,000, and I am going to ask for $10,000 down. So I'm going to create a note for $140,000. So this individual approaches you and he says, hey, I'd like to buy your house. Would you be willing to sell it? And he says, yeah, I'll sell it to you for $150,000, $10,000 down. So now that individual buys the property, and you've created a new note. And you lay this trust deed and note over the top of the existing note. They call that a wraparound mortgage, or an all-inclusive trust deed. All-inclusive trust deed, where it includes the other deed with the original person. So now you have a note here that you've created by fixing up a property and turning around, and instead of flipping it, you did a wraparound mortgage. And you might have 20, 50, or 30 of these types of deals where you're getting $400 a month on one property, $50 a month on another property, $1,000 a month on this property, and so forth and so on, to where you have maybe $3,000 or $4,000 coming in each month just from paper. So anyway, you sell the property to this individual, and now it's a $140,000 note at 10% interest for 30 years, and your monthly payments are $1,228 a month. And this guy's happy, and he's paying you this, and you're happy, and you have that existing note that's the payments on that are $1,790, and now you have the payments on this new note at $1,228. You subtract the $790 from that on the first note, and you have $438 a month coming in each month for the next 30 years on this property. So usually you don't go out and you want to let these trust deeds and notes, you want to let them season or become seasoned. That's when the payments have been paid on a regular basis, and you have been able to collect a lot of monthly payments through interest payments. So you can also approach, and I've done this before, you can also approach the first note holder, the one that you bought it, the individual that you bought it for $90,000, before you decide to sell it. Maybe you need the money and you just need to hurry and sell the property outright, and you don't want to do a wraparound mortgage, you just want to flip it. So now you approach this individual that has a $90,000 note. Let's say that you've rented it out for a while, and now you decide that you want to sell it because you need the money and you don't want to do a wrap. You sit down with this individual that you bought it from and say, hey, I had a $90,000 note with you, and it's seasoned now. 10 years have passed, and now my balance is $80,000 with you. Would you be interested in discounting that note if I was to give you, say, $50,000 at the end of the month? well, yeah, maybe he's wanting the money now. So yeah, I'll discount it, and I've done this before. So he says, yeah, I'll discount it. So he discounts the note, and now the note is $50,000 and it's due and payable at the end of the month. That's when you turn around and you hurry and try to sell the property. If you know that you can sell it below market and make a quick sell, you've discounted the $80,000 note with that individual to $50,000, and you just made a lot of money. So, but let's say that you want to do a wraparound mortgage. So now, going back to that original person there on the second time on the all-inclusive trust deed, you have $438 a month coming in, and you've just created equity, about $50,000 or more in equity, when you have the difference of the 140 and the 90,000. So anyway, that's what that's how you buy paper. You can create the paper by buying the property and then fixing it up and turn around and selling it on a wraparound mortgage or an all-inclusive trust deed, or you can flip it and ask the individual if after it's seasoned for a while. You can say, hey, I'm going to sell the property now, and you tell your wife you're going to sell it, and you both agree, and then you approach that individual and say, hey, we bought it from you for $100,000, we gave you $10,000 down, it's been 10 years, the note's $80,000 now, would you be willing to discount that note if we were to bring you the cash at the end of this month for $50,000? So that's one way, and then the other way would be just to turn around and sell it, owner financing again, which would be all-inclusive trust deed or wraparound mortgage. And you can go to Google and you can Google the words all-inclusive trust deed, and you can also Google I buy real estate trust deeds and notes. You can Google notes at a discount, and you'll see individuals, they'll have websites that will, they're trying to buy paper at discounts and so forth. So again, when you create paper, you want to make sure that the interest and the present value and the amortization and the payments are set to where they would be negotiable and easy to turn around and sell the paper to somebody else by restructuring these four items: interest, present value, amortization, and payments. Now, there's other ways that you can buy these notes. Let's say you don't want to be a landlord, or you don't want to go out and fix properties up. There's another easy way to be able to buy these notes with a real estate funding machine. This funding machine is something that will allow you to buy paper where you could not have purchased paper before. So if you go to www.realestatefundingmachine.com, that there will lead you to that information if you decide to go that route. I'm going to segue now into a video that will show you where to find all these leads, people who are wanting to sell their property, but they do not want all the money up front. They want just a portion of it and then monthly payments. Again, please go to www.realestatefundingmachine.com. That's realestatefundingmachine.com. And let's segue into this next video. Okay, so just to recap just a little bit, when you buy these notes at a discount, your money is actually protected quite a bit, because you have an investment backed up and secured by real estate. And you have some wonderful returns. You can get double-digit returns on all of these investments. And the passive income is really good too. Passive income without being a landlord. That's the best type of passive income that you can have. Property management is actually behavioral management. I've been doing property management or behavioral management for 30 years plus. So when you're buying paper, it does take some effort. It requires a lot of work on your part. You always want to make sure that your loan-to-value ratios, and with non-owner occupied properties, your loan-to-value ratio should be about 50% when you are working with paper. That's when you're dealing with it, but when you negotiate it, you want to be able to negotiate better terms than 60 loan-to-value ratio or 50% loan-to-value ratio. You want to make sure that you never subordinate any of your interest. Just make all the, you can make quite a bit of money just having little small deals, 200,000, 250,000 and below, fourplexes, duplexes, triplexes. Single-family homes are probably your safest bet because you have somebody in there that actually want to take care of the property and actually do yard work. Sometimes you'll get bad landlords. You'll deal with some paper and you're carrying a note on a property. You just sold a fourplex to somebody on a wraparound mortgage or an all-inclusive trust deed. You sold this property to an individual, and the individual is actually a slumlord. He's not taking care of the property. So you got to pay particular attention to who you're going to sell this paper to, and also their behaviors. Are they property owners now? Do they have rental properties? How do they take care of those properties, and so forth? When buying trust deeds and when you're buying the paper itself, and you want to be able to check the property out, and also you want to be able to check out the note and what's in the note and the restrictions and in the note. And you want to make sure that your the taxes on the notes paid for each and every year, and the insurance. And you might want to have an up-to-date prepay. You want to make sure they're up-to-date, but you might want to also make sure that your taxes and insurance are prepaid, and you can structure that in the notes as well. You don't want to do any of this with land. Land is very risky, and the gophers don't pay the rent. So you just want to make sure that you verify all the balances and so forth. There's a lot more to buying trust deeds and notes at a discount, and also creating notes when you purchase property than what I'm explaining here. There's a lot more to it. But as you do this, you want to just take little baby steps in it, and maybe start with a smaller home, $100,000 home, and turn around and fix it up to a $150,000 home, and then turn around and sell it owner financing. So I mentioned before that I would tell you some of the ways. This is not all of the ways. There's so many different ways of finding paper and also properties, but this is just a quick video that will help you out a little bit. But here's the best way to find paper and also creating paper. World War II veterans. There's not many World War II veterans left. Right now it's 2016, so any World War II veteran is going to be in their 90s. So there's not going to be very many properties where the World War II veterans are wanting to sell them on notes. But yet you do have family members that maybe they have grown up with a family in the family where they do not like real estate, They've been around the late night calls. They've been around the repairs. And the siblings are just tired of the industry, and they become a landlord by circumstance. So you can actually buy these properties from individuals and on owner financing, siblings and so forth. Probably be a lot easier if there's fewer siblings, but some of the siblings may not want all the money up front, but they want an annuity coming in each month, and they split it up between them. It's 2016 now, so the Korean War veterans, they're approaching their 80s, or they're in their 80s right now. And these individuals have worked hard all their life. They've picked up rental properties when they were in their 30s and 40s, and now and they were living off the income on these properties. But now they don't want the income, the headaches of property management, so they decide that they want to sell their property, owner financing, and they get a small amount or a minimal amount down, and then they want the monthly payments. They don't want the tax burden. You're also going to be you can find deals with partnerships, unhappy partnerships, individuals that want to sell their interest in a property at a discount. You can also find divorce individuals who have a lot of equity in their home, and they're on a joint tenant or tenants in common. But a joint tenant is an individual like a husband and wife who, with a joint tenant, you can sell your ownership interest in the house to another individual. This would be very risky. Sometimes it's nice if you have the individual who's getting divorced. Maybe the husband wants to stay in the house, and the ex-wife wants to leave that joint tenant relationship, or and then they sell their note at a discount. The ex-wife sells it at a discount, and then the other individual remains in the home. So you can you can buy equity notes that way. Driving around neighborhoods is another good way to find properties to, if there's grass growing high in the yard, and there's deferred maintenance on properties. You can see these properties and find out at the courthouse who owns these properties, and then you can talk with them to see if they have any notes to begin with on the property or mortgage. Most likely they don't if they're old property. Maybe there's an individual that's just become a landlord by circumstance, and the property's just sitting there. You buy that property, fix it up like I explained in the first scenario. Also, property management companies. Property management companies come across tons and tons of properties that you can pick up from owners and buy the homes really cheap. The best way nowadays, back in the 80s it was very popular to buy paper, and there was a lot of it, but now most of the time you have to create it by purchasing the property and fixing it up. So property management companies is a good source. Real estate brokers and agents are another good source in finding properties that you can fix up and turn around and do a wraparound mortgage or an all-inclusive trust deed. Estate sales is another one that's is a good one. And also placing ads in the local paper. But you want to make sure that it's locally at first as you start doing this. Eventually you can go out of state, like if you're in Utah, surrounding states, Colorado, Idaho, Nevada. You can go to surrounding states and you can buy paper at a discount. And you want to maybe go there to those different locations and kick the bricks and make sure that it's a property that would be beneficial to you if you had to take it back on a deed in lieu of foreclosure. So when you put these ads in the paper, public in magazines and stuff like that, if you're dealing nationwide, you can place ads in Better Homes and Garden or different magazines that would fit the niche of an individual that's would be looking at that type of magazine. But anyway, in the paper or the local newspaper at first, you'd want to put an ad in that says, "I buy real estate, trust deeds, and notes, paper secured by real estate." And then usually the best way to do it is to have a separate phone number, like a 1-800 number. I can give you an example of a 1-800 number that you can listen to. It's 1-800-380-9865, and the extension is 1237. That's an example of a 1-800 number system. That particular example is with a home that's up for sale, but anyways, the individual will call the 1-800 number, and they don't have your other cell phone number, but they call that 1-800 number and they can hear all the details about what you're looking for and so forth. Once they do that, you have their name and their phone number and so forth, and you can communicate with them after that. So anyway, there's a lot of different ways of creating paper and buying paper and so forth. But you know, I mentioned to you earlier in the first video, before I segued into this video, I mentioned to you about another funding vehicle, something that is actually a lot easier than dealing with paper and the headaches of paper and fixing up a property and so forth. Less risk. You know, who wants, after you get a certain age, who wants to go out and find a property that they're going to have to turn around and turn into, you know, a purchase of a $100,000 property, turning it into $150,000 to $180,000 property, and then selling it on an all-inclusive trust deed or wraparound mortgage. So there's easier ways to fund these vehicles. There's easier ways to buy paper. There's easier ways to buy rental properties, and that's found in my website, realestatefundingmachine.com. realestatefundingmachine.com. There's a lot of creative ways to fund paper and real estate that you want to buy. So again, that's www.realestatefundingmachine.com. And I really would like to talk with you. When you fill out the form below this video, of course I will be contacting you and asking you what you thought of the information that I've provided in the realestatefundingmachine.com. I wish you the best of luck in all of your paper dealings and all of your purchases. If you have questions, feel free to fill out the form below, and I would love to talk with you about any of this stuff. This particular video, I am a real estate broker. I'm a licensed real estate broker, but this has nothing to do with selling you properties or trying to find properties for you or anything like that. It's something that's completely different. So I do want to disclose that I am a real estate broker, but what I'll be talking about in the real estate funding machine is something completely separate and completely different than buying or selling real estate. Again, I want to thank you. My name is Scott Thompson, and I appreciate sharing this information with you at this time, and make it a great day.